Yes.
Hi, we are the Delaney's. This is my wife, Kendall. My name is Dean. We're the proud parents of Jackson Delaney, who was born on the 7th of June. Our second boy, our first boy, Benjamin, who is now 3.5-ish, and was born on the 10th of November 2016.
Yeah, so Jackson was born at Kingsbury Hospital with Dr. Sarah Shanahan, and we really wanted to have a doula present, but because of COVID, that wasn't possible. And so we'd still contacted Charlene anyway, and then the Relax into Birth course was available. We knew we wanted to have a second child, but I was petrified of giving birth again, because the first birth was a bit scary. I don't feel I knew enough. I had a lot of adrenaline. I was exhausted beforehand. We had been living in Tanzania at the time, and just came to SA for the delivery, and he came early. So Dean wasn't around at the time. He managed to fly in and rush in from the airport as I gave my last push and Benjamin arrived. So it was very traumatic. I knew I wanted to do whatever I can to feel more comfortable for the second birth and more prepared. Yeah, and that's...
Yeah, we've spoken about it, but I think also we were more settled going into the birth, and we also had time to do these courses. I think the first time was a little bit rushed, and also that we weren't at home, we didn't have our own space. There was a lot of other things we were trying to organize and kind of get prepared, and not, you just weren't focusing solely on the birth. There was a million other things that you were focusing on. Whereas this time around, it felt that you had time to plan and to be prepared, and that we had our own space, which helped.
Yeah. The first thing I took from the Relax into Birth course was I made sure that I had time to listen to the tracks. So it helped me slow down, and Dean also knew that I wanted to do it and it was important to me. And so I got into a routine of having a bath every single night to give myself some alone time. And I put my headphones in and I started listening to the tracks every evening. And so that, I think it made me feel more comfortable, especially towards the end of my pregnancy, having those baths, having some downtime. It also helped me sleep a bit better because I was winding down towards the end of the day. And yeah, listening to your voice, I heard a track the other day and I immediately went calm and content.
Yeah, no, also you listened to it by yourself, but then a lot of what you had learned and heard. So obviously I didn't listen to all of the course. I listened to a couple of sessions, but a lot of the things that you had listened and you had learned, you'd then repeat back to me. So I think it was important as well. So although, like I said, I didn't do all of it, I kind of got the gist of it, right? I understood, one, I knew why you wanted to do it, and for the right reasons, but then also with you kind of relaying information back to me, I got a real good sense of what the course was about and what you were going through. I remember listening to the one session on like to support your partner, which was specifically like prepared or done for the partners, which I thought was really cool and interesting as well. And you learn, what to say and what not to say, and when to say it and when not to say it. But I think it's all around, it's more about understanding the mental space of the person who's giving birth, right? So, and you in a relationship, so your partner, so you understand how to react and what way to react and when to react. But knowing that Kendall wasn't going to be in a calm space and was aiming to be in a calm space also then helps me be calm about it, right? Because you had it under control.
You were very calm.
Yeah, so everything was quite calm because you were calm, you're prepared, you had things under control. Again, referencing the Benjamin's birth, it was like the complete opposite. It was fast, it was chaotic, it was, even post-birth was I think the effects were still felt, right? 3-4 weeks after birth, it was still like that.
Yeah.
Because it was just chaos. Yeah.
But at the end of the pregnancy, I wasn't feeling scared and nervous anymore. We were both actually just super excited and ready to have our baby. So we were in a good space and confident and excited.
We were actually prepared. We were told that that Jackson was going to be early. So almost for the last 2 weeks, we kind of paced around the house and just waiting for Jackson to come, because we got oh no, it's going to come early. He's going to come early again. But with 2 weeks to go, everything was cool.
Yeah.
Jackson was born at what time? 3:20 in the afternoon. And that morning,
it was 3:00 in the morning when I first woke up and told you that there was
things were going to happen.
Things were happening.
And then, but you did you're doing washing, and you were walking around the house, and you were nesting properly. You were cleaning things, and you were scrubbing things, and then we went for a nice walk. Like I think that was 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. We went for a short walk. I even remember saying to you, maybe we should, phone your folks now to come, because obviously they had to be here with Benjamin. And you're like, no, it's still fine. Like everything's under control.
I knew it was going to be a long process, and I knew not to get panicked. And
you thought it was going to be a long process.
Well, I thought it would be even longer. So I tried to take the day as normal as possible. And instead of putting all my energy into the entire build up of the delivery, I tried to be as normal as possible during the day. And then every time there was a contraction, just breathe through it and then try and continue my day like normal again. And I do think that that's helped a lot, because
it did.
I think before we even left home, I must have been quite a bit further than we had thought I was.
You were a lot further than we thought you were.
We managed to get through it just from breathing through the contractions and trying to be normal in between.
We got to the hospital at 2:00, and he was born at 3:20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, it was. But I think it's also because with Benjamin, what was it, 20 hours you labored?
Yeah, 21 hours.
21 hours. So.
But I was crying through that labor, and I was so stressed out. I had all the wrong hormones.
I remember, because obviously I wasn't, around while Kendall was laboring for Benjamin. I remember getting to the hospital with Jackson now and thinking to myself, jeepers, is this what's going to be like for 15 to 20 hours? Because this is quite intense. And needless to obviously, we didn't know at the stage that Jackson was only an hour away from being born. Yeah.
We thought that we had timed it all perfectly. With Benjamin, I had an episiotomy. And so the only part I was still nervous about was knowing that I would probably tear and being nervous about that. So I thought that I would want to have an epidural right at the end. And so we thought that we timed it perfectly to get to the hospital just in time to then have the epidural. And obviously when we got there, by the time the midwife was able to come in, we hadn't even filled in the hospital forms yet.
Dina 10 centimeters, yeah.
Nothing was filled in. When we got there, I basically felt like I needed to go into all fours, and my breathing obviously changed. So the midwife came running in and she said, you need to push. And she checked, and I was ready.
Yeah. But I think the lead up to it was and I think both of us, that we're in a much calmer headspace, way more prepared,
Definitely.
way more calmer. It just seemed a lot more structured. It just seemed, that's it. Yeah, it was pretty well prepared, very well prepared.
My headspace was right as well. Because the first thing I said when we walked into the hospital room was, you actually dimmed the lights immediately.
Yeah.
To keep the space calm. And when I walked in, I looked around and I said, this is a good space. I'm comfortable in this space. So I was very happy with my surroundings. There was nothing that was making me tense or nervous.
Yeah. We didn't even get a chance to take your candles out the bag. We got the candles, all the essential oils, didn't even make it out of the bag.
But having those things ready.
But that's because you were prepared, right? So we were prepared for that stuff. And
that's why having those things packed and ready made us feel like we were 100% ready.
Yeah. And even during the birth, you were more worried about the lady next door.
I was worried about everyone.
Yeah, and she had an epidural yet? Is she going to be okay? But it's because you were comfortable and because you were in control, and so you weren't really worried about anything.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. I also realized through the course that just because I had one bad experience doesn't mean that it had to happen like that again. And our bodies are meant to do this and rather embrace it rather than stopping things happening. So then I was fully in control. And when we got to the hospital, Dean obviously turned the lights off. Well, dimmed them. When the nurse came rushing in and put the lights on again, I stood up for myself. I said, no, I want the lights off, please. And I think it made a difference, me knowing that, having that confidence to tell her, this is how I want things to be. And I was in control. And then also when I was told to sit on the bed, I said, no, I'd rather move around. When my gynae arrived, I also expressed that to her and she was supportive. She said, not a problem, you can do whatever you'd like to do. So I didn't feel like I was stuck to the bed either, which would have been uncomfortable. Yeah, knowing that I was in control and then also having the correct support around me. You were amazing.
Well, I was there. It makes a difference. On the first time, it wasn't very difficult for me to be better than the first time around. Yeah.
But I ended up kneeling on the bed and putting all my weight onto Dean. And so he didn't need to say much, but he was supporting me just by holding me up. And that happened. That was most of the time. There was a moment though where Sarah said, okay, and I felt it first. I started to get a bit uncomfortable and tired on my knees. And at the same time, Sarah said to me, okay, Kendall, it's time for you to have this baby. And I think previously I would have probably panicked and gone, oh my gosh, I need to get him out. And I would have stressed out about it, but I didn't. All I did was change position and I actually slowed things down even more. I took deep breaths and no one told me when I needed to push. So I just waited until I felt it was right. And I think slowing it down also, 2 pushes later, Jackson arrived.
Yeah.
Everything ended up going according to plan. I didn't end up having that epidural, which we are very happy about.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing is you're back home a day later. He was born at 3:20. I picked you up from the hospital 11 o'clock the next day, and you were home and like back on it. Everything was cool, which was amazing. Yeah. So it's also the post-birth coming out of that as well. If you've had a great experience and you've been prepared, the next couple of weeks, or certainly the next couple of days, and then a couple of weeks also just become that much easier and better, because the process starts, a couple of weeks before the birth as well.
Giving birth during COVID, we felt very comfortable in the hospital. I think the only time that there was a bit of concern was leading up to it, not knowing whether Dean would be able to be there or not, and knowing that I wasn't going to have a doula there. But I ended up being prepared anyway. And with us having our tests in advance, we ended up having 2 tests waiting. So we knew that we were able to go into the hospital fine. We actually made a big mistake on arrival because from the car, parking the car and getting into the hospital, I had 3 contractions just walking into the hospital. And with doing that, we just got into the first lift, not realizing that it was a COVID-only lift. But we had our masks on, so we were fine. Once you kept your mask on the whole time, but once I was in the room, I was able to remove my mask.
Everything pretty much seemed once you're in the kind of birthing ward, everything seemed the same. It was just the kind of check-in process in the beginning where we had to get our stickers and the temperature, but it didn't take long. That was probably the only difference. But I think we're fortunate in that hospital was good. But you're right, it's leading up to the birth was the concerning, because things were changing quite fast at that time. There was discussions about me not being able to be there, and then the different tests. I think that was kind of the only panic. But on the day itself.
Yeah, and we were comfortable in that hospital that they had taken all the precautions necessary, that everything would be okay.
It is probably worth mentioning when this security guard saw us driving in, and then you got out the car, and she could see that you were pregnant and that you're about to give birth, and she started radioing for a wheelchair. And Kendall obviously didn't want to have any of it. She said, I don't need a wheelchair. I'm walking into this hospital myself.
I needed to walk.
But I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that you were in control, you were comfortable, you were confident, you didn't need help, or you didn't really want people to fuss around you. You were like, I'm fine, I can walk. And then a couple of steps, then you had another contraction, and the security guard's eyes were like this. But I think it's testament to, again, the strength and like that confidence that you had.
Yeah.
But I thought that was quite funny, walking into the hospital. Yeah.
The Relax into Birth course was very helpful. I don't think things would have gone the same way if I hadn't have done it. It prepared both of us, and we were in the right space because of it. It made me take that time to listen to the tracks. It calmed me down, gave me confidence and feel prepared. And then it also, it could be awkward trying to tell your partner what he needs to do and doesn't need to do. And so I think also from you,
definitely helped. I think it was, you said calmness, and I think that's exactly what it was, especially with, like, when you're listening to those, when you're listening to the course and the conversations you had after the course, there was definitely, like, it brought a sense of calmness to the whole situation. And if I think about, like, the whole process, the couple of weeks before that, if I had to give it one word to summarize it, it was calm, which is exactly what you want leading up to birth, right? You want calmness, because with calmness comes a sense of, like, organized, you sense of control, because you're not panicked.
Yeah.
And I think that was key, and that's certainly that's where your mindset was at. And listening to the couple of tracks, that's what the course taught you, was calm, be in control.
And also visualizing the room that I would be giving birth in beforehand. That's one of the points on the course, and how to create that calm space. And although we did have all the candles ready and the essential oils, it didn't end up needing them, but just by having them and having them packed added to me feeling ready. That covers our birth story.